Hi, I'm Constantine, and today we're going to discuss Jeffrey Epstein's honeypot operation for the CIA and the Mossad. Okay, so I have this article here from whowhatwhy.org. It's my favorite one that I saw. I did some research on this a few days ago. So I wanted to comment on this one. Title: Jeffrey Epstein belonged to intelligence? Question mark. Leonard C. Goodman. All right. It's an opinion piece. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Still got that lingering cough from that terrible COVID. I think I've got long COVID. I'm not sure, but it appears to be. All the symptoms are there. So, where are we? As explosive Jeffrey Epstein saga recedes from the spotlight, the gap from the unspoken question is: was the extraordinary tolerance accorded to Epstein for years, even after his nefarious activities were known, deliberate? I would say yes. Specifically, was he allowed to exploit vulnerable minors to enable intelligence agencies to blackmail world leaders for what they did to those girls? I would say yes. Again, I firmly believe that he was running a honeypot operation, which means sexual blackmail operation. It's intelligence agency. I think it's CIA lingo. He was running such an operation for the CIA and the Mossad. Now, the rabbit hole can go pretty deep with this one. You know, there's a number of theories we can come up with. I mean, you could say, was it a joint CIA Mossad operation? Was he a double agent working for the Mossad, out to screw the CIA, etc.? I mean, I've thought of that. I'm sure other people have thought of that as well. Okay, so let's see. So they're saying here, they're saying it sounds too far-fetched, blah, 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 blah. Okay, of course, that's what they're going to say. I mean, it's amazing, right? People watch the James Bonds and the Ethan Hunts, you know, from Tom Cruise's Mission Impossible and whatever, Jason Bourne and all these things. And we're like, yeah, okay, I could see this happening in the real world. Like a lot of these guys that, like Ian Fleming, like I said, James Bond. It's known that he was working for MI6, was it MI5, MI6, whatever it is. I don't remember which. Is it 5 or 6 now? But anyway, you know, the same organization that's James Bond is depicted as working for. You know, pretty much the CIA of England, right? There's another one. I don't remember now. Was it the guy that wrote the Bourne Identity? Did he have intelligence background, or was it rumored that he had? Something like that. I mean, correct me. Let me know in the comments if I'm remembering correctly. But there's Robert Ludlum, wasn't it, who wrote that, the Bourne novels. Amazing stories, amazing books, amazing movies, all of them. You know, a lot of these movies and shows, they consult with the CIA and so on. And you know, and even if the authors, or you know, the writers of the shows, or whatever, or directors, whatever they are, movies, novels, shows, even if they're not directly involved, you often see them consulting with people that were in the intelligence agencies, okay, because they try. I mean, there's nothing nefarious in that. It's just that they do that in the spirit of accuracy, you know, trying to depict things as accurately, as realistic as possible. Ian Fleming is the most well-known author, I guess, that you know, spy novel writer who was actually a spy himself. So what I'm what I'm getting at there is like people look at these things and say, oh, okay, yeah, he was in intelligence as well, so he's kind of showing us Hollywoodized, overblown version of what it was like. But when people get over the fact that the crazy stuff that we see, the over the top stuff that we see in James Bond or in Mission Impossible films, that a lot of that stuff might actually not be real. Like it doesn't probably ever happen, or if it does, it's extremely exceedingly rare. Like in Mission Impossible, every fucking scene is some death-defying stunt or some impossible situation, or one guy taking out 100 people by himself. Like the Schwarzenegger film True Lies. That's another spy film as well, like some superhuman spy. One guy taking out an entire team of dozens. That may or may not happen in real life, but the point is that things like the honeypot operations and stuff, that's, I mean, why would, of course, I don't know, what this who, what, and why website, where they lean, or whether they could be classed as fake news or whatever. It's the first time I've come across the site. But they're saying it's far fetched. Why would they say that? It sounds too far fetched. Why? It's not far fetched at all. I mean, if we when we continue, when you see like the stuff it says, you do some deductive reasoning, some dot connecting, some logical dot connecting. And you're like, fuck. There's absolutely no way that this guy was not protected from higher ups, whose names we don't know. Okay. Or whose names we do know, but we don't know that they were the ones protecting it. Whatever, So okay, when Alexander Acosta was being considered for the position of Secretary of Labor, Emperor Trump's transition team was concerned about the fact that Acosta, as U.S. Attorney for South Florida, made the secret non-prosecution deal back in 2008 with Epstein's attorneys. Would it not cause problems at confirmation hearings? Possibly. I think the cat wants to jump off my leg. Yeah. Yeah, it's gone. All right. So, Costa reportedly explains that he cut the deal with Epstein's attorneys because he'd been told to back off, that Epstein was above his pay grade. I mean, I know this is not news, and I'm probably a little bit late on the bandwagon because the whole thing with the Epstein list is about a week old. But anyway, I was busy doing other stuff, busy trying to not die from long COVID. Looks like I'm out of the woods now, though. Apart from this little dry cough here. Okay. Epstein was above his pay grade. I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone. I mean, that's a real quote. The only source for this bewildering, explosive comment is Vicky Ward of the Daily Beast and formerly of Vanity Fair. She said she heard this from a former senior White House official, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I believe it's a real quote. Okay, 99% of the time, when people say that they get these quotes, like certain journalists, etc., here's some quote or has it on good authority from some trusted source that someone else said something in their presence, blah, blah, blah. It's a good idea to actually trust these people. I'm not advocating to trust fake news media, but just it's these people are in the business of of creating trust. Okay, all their lives, these journalists, their entire career is based on actually having legitimate sources and so on. So I do believe that this is a real quote, like a lot of the other quotes that the people that apparently made them come out and deny that they did and blah blah blah, and they're like, oh, there was no proof, there was no one there, that's all hearsay. But anyway, I believe the quote was real. Acosta could not be reached for comment last week about this alleged quote. Yeah, of course he couldn't. And he was evasive when asked by a reporter. Okay, so on and so forth. Alright, so there's intriguing evidence elsewhere as well. In a recent interview with NBC Dateline, former Palm Beach, this is where it gets interesting, former Palm Beach Police Chief Michael Reiter described what happened as the police spent months quietly gathering and meticulously verifying evidence of what Epstein had been up to. What does he say here? Let's see.
How is it possible the system could have failed on so many levels at all the same time? How do you explain that?
There is no explanation.
No shit.
I didn't believe it back then. I don't believe it now. It's just unfathomable to me.
So this guy was former Palm Beach police chief, and you heard him 10 seconds ago. He said it was unfathomable to me. Okay, this guy is not some conspiracy theorist. This guy was like, what was it again? Yeah, former Palm Beach police chief. The chief says it's unfathomable that this could happen under the normal procedures, under normal circumstances of the law enforcement procedures. Okay, by the book, it should not have happened. Okay, that's why it's unfathomable to this gentleman. Okay, as the investigation wore on, Ryder told NBC odd things began to happen. The plot thickens when detectives armed with a search warrant, check this one out. When detectives armed with a search warrant entered his home with a video camera, what they found made them suspect that Epstein had been tipped off. The place had been cleaned up, Ryder said. The computer that contained all of the home surveillance footage was gone. Imagine that. And all the wires were left hanging there. Alright? They'd pulled it all out and the wires were still there in the walls. I mean, for Christ's sake, it just reads like a script from a spy film. Alright? Cat's licking my hand. At least it shows it loves me. That's a good sign. Alright, so after 6 months of investigation, Ryder said, local police noticed a shift in attitude by the state prosecutors. They suddenly seemed dismissive of the case. How about that? Telling Ryder that the witnesses were not credible. And they hindered their efforts by refusing to approve the use of critical investigative techniques. Now, why would that be? He then said, Ryder, the investigation took another sinister turn. The cat is going to make Swiss cheese on the couch. Yeah. Investigation took another sinister Epstein's defense team seemed to know details about the probe before they were made public. How could that be? How? Oh, how? We believe the content of our being distracted by a beautiful cat, of our probable cause affidavit eventually, sometime after we presented it to the state attorney's office, ended up with the defense attorneys, Ryder said, because minute details that nobody else knew that were in those documents were being refuted and contrary information provided by the defense. He was so frustrated that he took the unusual step of asking the state attorney Barry Kreischer to remove himself from the case, citing the officer's highly unusual treatment of the investigation. When that didn't work, he turned his evidence over to the FBI. This is where Mr. Acosta comes into it. And they said, this is an easy case. It's a horrific situation. We'll put him away for the rest of his life, Ryder recalled. That's what the U.S. attorney, assistant attorneys, U.S. attorneys told us as well. But his enthusiasm didn't last long. In time, it became clear that the federal probe was also stalling, though he believes the FBI agents working on the case were personally committed to it. Of course they were. It was just like in the movies or in, I don't know, the cop dramas or whatever. Like you see, there's one dirty guy at the top that's thwarting it, that is probably involved or in the was blackmailed probably himself, or for some reason some higher up is thwarting it because I don't know, it's personally involved or implicated, or for whatever reason. So Ryder met with the prosecutor in charge of the case, U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, here we go, whom Donald Trump would later name Labor Secretary. The conversation, Ryder said, did not get off to a promising start. Well, he basically said, Ryder says, in a very measured manner, that the defense in this case has successfully delayed and frustrated the investigation and the prosecution of the case. I left that meeting thinking this guy hopefully is going to do the job, referring to Alex Acosta. Didn't turn out the way he'd hoped. In 2007, Acosta decided not to charge Epstein in federal court. Instead, he sent the case back to local prosecutors. The prosecution of Epstein for running the sex trafficking operation with young girls ended on August 10 when Epstein was found dead. For years, he's talking about his victims here. Okay, they have good reason, his victims, the ladies depicted here, they have good reason to suspect that their government has been lying to them in order to protect the rich and powerful. No kidding. Can't imagine what these women went through. The victims had already been deceived once by the federal government. That's when the FBI took the case from Palm Beach Police, as described above by Police Chief Ryder, ostensibly to ensure Epstein would not receive special treatment because of his wealth and status in Palm Beach. At the time, many victims came forward and cooperated with the federal investigation. The FBI identified dozens of credible victims, and prosecutors prepared a 53-page child sex trafficking indictment that carried a potential punishment of life in prison. 53 pages. It seems pretty big to me. I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if the 50-page 50-page indictment document is unusually large, but it sounds like it. Then in 2008, the victims were betrayed yet again when Acosta entered into a secret. Right here, yeah, this is a big one that everyone has been talking about for a few years now. When Acosta entered into a secret and unprecedented agreement not to persecute Epstein or any of his alleged co-conspirators. Imagine that. The victims, many of whom were too young to consent at the time of the abuse, had a right to object to the agreement, but, get this, they were illegally cut out of the deal, a judge has ruled. Acosta's office sealed the agreement with the court and misled the victims to think that a federal prosecution of Epstein and his co-conspirators was still a possibility. Acosta has, of course, given conflicting statements about the highly unusual and illegal deal, illegal, key word, he cut with Epstein's lawyers. As mentioned above, he said that he had been told to back off, according to one media account. But when questioned in public about the deal, Acosta sang a different tune. In July of this year, what will be this year? When was this article? Is it talking about now? Anyway, in July of this year, he said he believed it was a good agreement based on the evidence he had in 2008. and that new evidence and additional testimony offers an important opportunity to more fully bring him to justice. Whatever. Something's fishy here, 100%. I mean, it's an open and shut case. That, I mean, it's the quote. We have the quote. He said he was told to leave it, to not touch him because he belongs to intelligence. I mean, what else do you need? I mean, some people might say, well, I will need proof that he actually said it, an audio recording or video. Well, I'm sorry, we haven't got that, but I believe that the quote's real. Because, why? Because everything that's happened around the case, especially his self-deletion, apparent self-deletion, it all fits. Like I said, it reads like a script from a Jason Bourne movie, right? Not as good, but still similar type of stuff. Killing the guy, taking care of loose ends. Okay, he was a loose end. He was gonna squeal. He was gonna sing. He was gonna sing like a canary. Like he was gonna give him the names or whatever he had to give. Okay, so he mysteriously self-deleted in prison. So Acosta's July public statement is plainly a lie. In fact, the 2019 indictment mirrors the charges the federal prosecutors had prepared in 2008 and then shelved. It alleges sex trafficking of girls between 2002 and 2005. The 2019 case against Jeffrey actually arose out of investigative reporting by Julie K. Brown of the Miami Herald. She identified about 80 women who said they were molested or otherwise abused by Epstein. Brown also told the story of the extraordinary non-prosecution agreement that was kept under seal and secret from the victims, contrary to federal law. Embarrassed by the stories in the Herald, the feds sprang to action. It's the only reason they did it. Okay, this is why a lot of the times, journalism can be a good thing if done right. Hey, don't bite me. I'm hoping the cat, doing these videos with the cat actually adds to the entertainment factor. I'm relieved because the first couple of videos I made, ever since I've been owned by a cat the past few months, I would lock it out of the room and it would be yelling and stuff, and it was pretty excruciating. I didn't really want to do it, but it was always attacking cables and things and knocking down cameras. Anyway, don't bite me, mother. Anyway, so the federal agents arrested Epstein on July 6 as his private jet. They searched his townhouse. In court, federal prosecutors argued that Epstein was too much of a flight risk to be released on bond and must be detained in. Okay, despite Acosta's conflicting stories and his transparently phony public statements, no one in mainstream press or Congress has investigated the role played by U.S. intelligence agencies in the Epstein case. No, of course not. Like I said, just like in the movies. Plug the leak, It appears that Democrats were initially willing to attack Acosta. Anyway. Had Epstein lived, one reason foul play should be suspected is that any criminal trial of Epstein or his co-conspirators would have been highly problematic for the federal government. Epstein's lawyers would have been obliged to explore whether Epstein believed that government officials with actual authority sanctioned his crimes because he was providing them with sexual blackmail material on targeted leaders, which again, as I said earlier, makes absolutely perfect sense. All the intelligence agencies do this. I mean, the mob It doesn't have to be intelligence agencies. Criminal organizations do it. The mob and so on, various mobs, whether it's Italian, Irish, whatever, Russian, all the mobs. Okay, the mafias do this. Blackmail in general, of course, all criminal organizations use blackmail in general, but sexual blackmail is probably the best and the easiest, the the highest ROI out of all the forms of blackmail, I think, because it's just easy. You just get a hot teenage girl. You get, you train her, whatever. Sorry, coach her for a bit and say, this, and that. You're going to go, there's the Mark, this guy. He goes there every Friday night or whatever. If it's some diplomat or something, he's going to be in town on such and such day. Stay at such and such hotel. I'm sort of just making this up on the fly, like from movies I've seen and stuff. But, I'm sure it pretty much works that way. And you're going to go there such and such time and pretend you're coming on to him and stuff, and got the hots for him and da 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 da, and this is what he likes. And of course they've made, like, they got files, like personality profiles of these guys, and like they have as much information as possible on them, like, as in likes, dislikes, favorite music, blah blah blah, food, all these things. So they coach the girl to be like as close as possible, a match, okay? Think dating apps, match type of thing. A lot of these guys fall for it. I mean, it's just, come on, I'm a guy, I know how it is. A lot of the times, especially as the older you get, if you're 50, 60-year-old politician, diplomat or whatever, and some hot 20-year-old suddenly hits on you, at a bar or whatever, a hotel lobby or whatever, you might get suspicious, but not necessarily, not always, if she's coached correctly, if she's been coached well, and if the guy's just not red-pilled enough, is a bit of a dumbass on these subjects, he'll be like, oh yeah, she's genuinely got the hots for me because I'm a powerful man, blah blah blah. This is why most of the time this is the best form of blackmailing men, okay, and older men in positions of powers, because it'd be very difficult for him to figure out whether it's genuine or not, because a person in such a man with such high status generally would get genuine interest from the young babes, okay? So you can be suspicious. You're like, oh, is she a plant? Is this a honeypot? Is this a whatever? And they go to some out-of-the-way hotel or something. But, it's if they orchestrate it very well, ingeniously, they'll probably get her to suggest the hotel or whatever, and then you got the CIA guys behind the mirrors, some of the double mirrors or whatever, recording the thing. So it happens, okay? If we see it if it happens in the movies, you can bet your bottom dollar or whatever, bet your ass that it happens in the intelligence. Like I said before, explained at length, that whatever we see in the Mission Impossible type of films and novels, where do you think these people got the ideas from originally? Okay, they are Hollywoodized and blown out of proportion in the action scenes and the high stakes. The stakes are like way too high all the time. Wouldn't be like that in real life if you're a spy. 90% of the time would probably be just like sitting in a van and just surveilling someone all fucking day. I've seen that, like, from interviews of real spies on YouTube and stuff. They're like, oh man, it's pretty boring. But the techniques, the surveillance techniques and the blackmail techniques and whatever, these are real things. And where the fuck do you think the people that write novels about it got it from? So definitely, this is absolutely not far-fetched or anything. The far-fetched thing would actually be to, considering all this stuff that I read here, or any other evidence that we've seen from other sources, that point to the fishiness of the situation, to the incongruencies, this, the weird thing would be to not think that there's some kind of, cover up. Okay, only an idiot, only a completely blue-pilled person that just believes the official narrative and trusts everything the government does and believes the fake news. Only those types of people would not suspect that something's off here. Okay. Yeah, so I went on my tangent because of this one. Talking about blackmail material on targeted world leaders. All right, so in other words, the government might have... So it's saying the government may have been like... So had he lived, right? Come on, mouse. So had Epstein lived... Blah, 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 blah. They would... in other words, the government might have had to reveal in court that Epstein belonged to intelligence. This is called the reliance on public authority defense. It typically arises in drug cases where the defendant argues he was working as a confidential source for the DEA and therefore believed he was authorized to sell drugs. Okay, so it's a nice little loophole for those types. Under the Constitution, the government is required to provide defense attorneys with all exculpatory evidence that could support any potential defense. Failure to do so can result in harsh sanctions against the prosecutors and even dismissal of the charges, as occurred recently in the federal prosecution. Yeah, so it makes absolutely perfect sense that they would have wanted to get rid of him. Okay? Because the government would have gotten in big trouble otherwise, because like it was just explained above, they would have had to admit that he was indeed working for intelligence, for the CIA, or for, like, my theory is that it's a joint CIA Mossad operation. And like I said in the beginning, maybe one could speculate that perhaps he was a double agent, the Mossad trying to screw over the CIA. I mean, it's not the first time they've done it. They're known for doing that, for not being loyal. A public criminal trial would have made it very hard to cover up Epstein's relationship to the intelligence agencies. These are the agencies that tell US presidents which countries to bomb, what leaders to depose, and which terrorists to assassinate by drone. And also they are the intelligence agencies that occasionally assassinate US presidents, like the guy in 1962 in Dallas. What's his name again? It's not a very well-known assassination, but if you Google it, you might see what I'm talking about. Many will recall the damage done to the credibility of the FBI when it was revealed that convicted mob boss Whitney Bulger, who died in West Virginia prison last October, was committing extortion and murder while working as an FBI informant. The Epstein scandal would have been far worse for government officials because it potentially involves exploiting minors to obtain dirt on world leaders, and not the kind of miners that work underground, mining diamonds and stuff. Okay, minors as in girls that are like 13 and 14. Such a scandal would likely lead to major reforms and oversight of the US intelligence, similar to what we saw in the wake of Watergate in the 70s with the Church Committee investigating the CIA, FBI, etc. Okay, so in conclusion, he was definitely an intelligence asset. I mean, if the US government said that, what does that mean? That obviously means CIA. Okay, but because he had ties with, Ghislaine Maxwell's dad was a Mossad agent, that's known. So was she, apparently. Epstein clearly must have been, they brought him into the fold when he was young, you know. And you have all this stuff about him, like, okay, let me change the screen there. So there's all this stuff about how he was mysteriously, like out of nowhere, someone was pumping him with, like, was giving him funds, like pumping him with millions, okay? Like suddenly he was getting all this money out of nowhere, and you really couldn't find the source. Like nobody really knew who his benefactors were. Okay, so clearly there was something, definitely shadowy forces behind the scenes. I mean, this is a classic intelligence agency story. Okay, it's a classic case of an intelligent, the life. It's like a typical life cycle of an intelligence asset that ends up badly. Okay, and they need to plug the leak. You know, he gets caught and then he gets deleted, self-deleted. Okay. I mean, we need to consider the following extraordinary thing. The well-known painting of Bill Clinton in that blue dress, all right, which apparently was front and center in his mansion in Epstein's New York, I think. Mansion, penthouse, whatever. So you'd walk in and the painting was right there. Okay. From what I read in an article earlier when I was preparing for this post, it was like to the room to the right or something. Like, so as soon as you walked in, you just looked to the right, and it was there. So to me, and I've seen someone else comment about this recently on a YouTube video I was watching about it, but you know, I've always been of this opinion as well for years, ever since I found out about that painting. I'm like, this is Epstein clearly telling the world, telling the people who are involved and who are coming into his house, saying, look, I'm showing you that I basically own the White House, or at least I own the Clintons, Bill Clinton at least. Okay, because you know, a lot of theories say that Hillary Clinton is actually higher in you know, Cabal pyramid, let's say, than Bill. But certainly Bill, he owned. Okay. Why else would you have that painting in such a prominent spot? Like, as soon as every person, you know, all these guests, you know, you're invited at Epstein's place, and immediately, within the first few seconds, you're confronted with that painting of Bill Clinton in drag, you know, dressed in a blue dress. What does that tell you? To me, it's clear. It's very clear. Okay, so that's actually what strongly suggests to me that while it may have been a joint CIA, you know, because the U.S. and Israel, you know, they're like that, you know. It's like, anyway, it's just for another video, for several other videos. But you know, the point is that the U.S. and Israel, a very strong alliance, you know. For several reasons. A lot of people in the world don't like it. I didn't when I was younger. In the past several years, I'm a little bit more lenient on it. I can kind of understand, because if the US does consider Israel as the most, you know, democracy friendly, the most modern, the most Western country in the Middle Eastern region, I guess it suits the US of A to have Israel as an ally in the Middle East. So, you know, all these theories that try to tell us, that suggest that, oh, it's because Israel controls the US Congress and stuff. I don't know about that. You know, there's certain things do point to that, but if you really look at it from a bird's eye point of view, perhaps it's the more correct thing to say is that the US sees Israel as being a very strategic place in the Middle East. Okay, so that's why they're always like, oh, we protect Israel and it's always our number one ally and blah blah blah. Okay, oil. It's got the oil, baby. So petrodollar is tied in with that. Like without the oil, the whole Federal Reserve, petrodollar, American dollar, you know, the supremacy of the American dollar around the world would just not work. So definitely it suits the US very, very much to have an ally in the Middle East like that. So that's why the US-Israel alliance exists. For the most part, okay, primarily, in my opinion. I mean, it took me many years to, to understand it in that way, So anyway, that alliance does exist, so it will make sense that he would have been running like a joint CIA-Mossad operation. For those who may not know, Mossad is like the foreign intelligence agency of Israel. And being such close allies, it would make sense that they would work together with the CIA. But Mossad is notorious for kind of not being too loyal. We've had instances in the past that have showed this. So, was he a double agent as well? Like the fact that he had the painting of Clinton, like as soon as you walk in the house, you could see it. To me, that's just he just in your face saying, look, I own this guy. Okay, I've got so much compromising material on him. I own him. Okay, maybe Lewinsky was part of this. No one knows. I mean, you can never. It's like I said before. It's so easy. Like the sexual blackmail operations are the highest ROI, return on investment, blackmail operations that have ever existed in history. I'm sure every empire, every army, every criminal organization has been doing sexual blackmail operations for forever, ever since humans existed, ever since modern societies and cities have existed. Okay. So yes, it does. Look, to me, it's like it's obvious. It's not a theory. It's not like, because in the beginning I was saying in the video, I said I believe, I think. I don't think it's like saying I believe in gravity. So what do you mean? So if you don't believe in gravity, does it mean that it's not going to work on you? I think I shouldn't be saying I think I believe. I think it's just, it appears to be a fact. Okay, it's a fact. It's not a belief or an opinion that he was an intelligence asset. Okay, from all the data that we have so far, and particularly in the way that he died, that was the final proof we needed. That was, what more do you need? Okay, I mean, it was so suspicious, it was unbelievable. How many people keep saying in random, they say things on some YouTube, some podcast or whatever, and then it's like, oh, by the way, Epstein didn't kill himself. It's constant. So almost nobody buys it. But the point is, like, these people that are behind this stuff, they don't care. It's like, once the guy's dead, once you've plugged the leak, you cannot believe our cover story. You know that, oh, the guards fell asleep, oh, the cameras were not working, oh, this and that. The people who are behind this who planned it, they don't give a shit if 90% of the people will not believe it, or 80% of the people will not believe it. They're like, well, we just want to protect ourselves. Okay, we know most of you are not going to believe it, but did we plug the leak? Dead men tell no tales, That's what they want. They don't care. They know that most of us know. But what the fuck, what are we going to do about it? What the hell are we going to do about it? It's also, in a way, it's probably like a form of mockery, like a psychopathic. The psychopath likes to taunt his victims, like, the cheesy villains in the Hollywood fantasy and action films and stuff, like where they're killing the hero and they're taunting him while they're doing it. I mean, that's a real thing. That's a real trait that psychos have, and part of it would be that as well. It's like, well, we know that you know. You, as in you, meaning the broad public, the general public. Most people are like, we don't buy this. It's so, I mean, you might as they should just might as well come out and say it in the fake news and say, yeah, we actually killed him. He didn't do it himself. Okay, it's almost that blatant. Over half of people, definitely majority of people, don't believe that he self-deleted. But these people don't fucking care, because it's part of their game. It's like, and part of it is like, probably it fulfills two goals. Okay, one is to protect, like to stop him from actually, squealing, and number two, it's to reinforce this whole apathy and slave mindset that we're all under. Okay, because we're like, they got away with it again. Nothing's ever going to change. Isn't that the feeling? Isn't that the thought that most people had? Most of you watching, isn't that what you thought when Epstein, he was in jail and we thought, oh, finally. And then he self-deletes magically, mysteriously. I bet the first thought in your head, in your mind was, it just makes you want to give up, because it's like, is it always going to be this? Are the thugs always going to be controlling us, and like we'll never get to justice? Like these child sex blackmail operations, are they never going to come to light? Are these people never going to get served justice? Okay. So I think part of it is that as well. I mean, maybe I'm kind of veering off here, but not really. I mean, because it's all part of this conversation, right? So definitely, I think the fact that he had that painting of Clinton in a prominent position, right, immediately as he walked into his house, that says it all. I don't think, because some blue-pilled naive people or some fake media shills might say, oh no, but like, you're being too conspiratorially minded now. Maybe because he was friends with the Clintons, you're seeing it like you're interpreting it in a sinister way, blah blah blah. Maybe it was like an insider joke between him and the Clintons because he was so close to them, right? But why would it? He's an ex-president of the United States, for Christ's sake. He's not just a nobody. All right. Do you think he would be okay with that? Like if I was the ex-president of a country, of the US, and I was friends with some guy like Epstein, and I actually agreed. Let's just pretend that like it was all, Clinton consented to this, and he thought it was all a big joke. And I'll let the guy paint me wearing that dress, and let my friend Epstein, in this case, put up the painting right next to his like near the entrance to the house, so everyone can see it when they walked in. I mean, come on, it's literally saying like in criminal speak, like in mafia and mob speak, symbolically, I own this guy. This guy's my bitch. Honestly, there's no other explanation for why. I mean, you could say, if there's one caveat to that, if the painting was not like, if it was this secret, if you kept it like in some whatever, in the basement, or like just locked up somewhere where only he and Clinton knew about it or whatever, and it was their own insider joke, you know. Maybe Clinton was weird that way, and he wanted just to do some weird cross-dressing thing, and you know, wanted a guy to paint him, whatever. Like people, you know, people are far weirder than that. So that's not exactly the strangest thing, the strangest sort of eccentricity to have. But the fact that it was displayed like right there, like a neon sign, as soon as you walked into the house, that's a completely different ball game, if you ask me, and many other people. All right. So these naysayers, these shills who say, "Oh no, you're making too much out of something that was pretty innocuous and innocent and just some bit of fun." No. When was the last time you've seen a similar situation, like of another ex-president or prime minister of another country that had a similar thing? I mean, because if you connect all the dots, I mean, if Epstein was just like something else, like some, you know, because a lot of these celebrities and stuff, I don't know, the George Clooney types, all those people, you know, they're friendly with presidents and so on. So if he was just like an actor or a musician or something, author, whatever, it's like, okay, maybe the president was a weirdo and he wanted that, and it was like their private little insider joke. But you look at what Epstein was involved in, and you put two and two together, and we know that Clinton had gone on a Lolita Express about 500,000 times more than they initially admitted. You know, it turns out, he's gone on it like 20, 30 plus times, something like that. You know, and they come out with these fake statements all the time. It's like, oh, well, nothing ever happened there. It's amazing. It's almost like we know. We automatically, at this point, it's gotten to the point where well, not everyone, but I'm hoping the majority of people, I mean, I've still got a little bit of faith left in mankind. So I'm hoping over 51% of the population in the West knows automatically that whenever some powerful person comes out and makes one of those generic statements, you know, it was scripted by ChatGPT. So really, they're not real. Like, oh, I didn't do this and that, like something that's written by their publicist. Sorry, not publicist, their PR person. And it's like, oh, just say this and mean it and blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, people will eventually forget about it. You know, they'll focus on the next big thing that's going to happen in the news cycle. And a couple of weeks later, they'll forget. And it's always like that, all right? There's just that, but there's absolutely no way that Clinton and Epstein were not up to something far more than, you know, just Clinton going on a couple of trips to the island. I mean, come on. Things like brothels exist. Things like prostitution exist. Things like sex work exist. For Christ's sake, it's everybody knows it's the world's it's the world's oldest profession, right? We have that saying in all cultures. All right, I've lived both in Greece and Australia, and believe me, there's an identical saying in both Greek and English that says the same thing, that it's the oldest profession. So I'm sure that phrase, everybody uses it in every culture, in every language. Okay, we know it's the oldest profession, regardless of race, culture, regardless of historical period. You know, it was always something that a young, sexy woman could do if she had to, you know, if she needed to. So it's not something shocking. It's not something out of the ordinary to think that this guy was kind of like high-class pimp, okay, for the elites. Because the thing is, a lot of these actors and all these celebrity types, you know, like all these people that are coming out now with a list. Some might be real, some not, or sorry, let me rephrase that. Some of them, it might have been quite innocuous. Some others might get into big trouble soon. You know, it's not, I mean, this whole thing with Stephen Hawking and whatever, I don't know, man, that's far-fetched. How's the guy going to do anything? He can barely move, you know. But anyway, even so, even if that stuff did happen, the point is, it's not something that we should really be frowning on. The only thing that bothers me is that, you know, if the girls are underage, number one, and number two, if it's done under, you know, through coercion, as opposed to the woman freely choosing to do sex work, okay? Although I don't recommend it as a job, they do. A lot of them choose it of their own free will, all right? If that's the case, yes. But the way this guy did it, it was a whole manipulation, mind control thing, you know. And plus he did it, he did it with the ultimate aim of blackmailing powerful figures. But the whole that Lolita Island thing, yeah, like I said, he was kind of like the pimp to the rich and powerful. I'm sure there's others aside from Epstein that have done this and that do it today. So, you know, people like DiCaprio or whoever, you know, they just want to go to this island where there's just all these hot babes walking around everywhere, and just, it's basically like an open air swingers party, okay? Swingers party. I've been to a couple of those, you know, with my partner back in the day in Melbourne many years ago. So they exist for us plebs. So of course they must have the equivalents for the people in high society. So if that's what he was doing in the, you know, on what's it called, Love Island or whatever it's called, that's fine. But it wasn't just that. Okay, that's the thing. So the thing about these celebrities wanting to go and do that, that's not what bothers me. It's like, so and so was also on the list and went to the thing. I'm like, okay. It's almost the equivalent of saying, oh my God, Leonardo DiCaprio was spotted at a at a strippers club or something. You know, okay, good. Men go to these things. You know, it's normal. But you know, everything else about it stinks, though. Okay, because this was not like it wasn't just that. All right, the ultimate agenda behind it was to blackmail powerful figures. Now, did he want also blackmail, to get blackmail material on all these actors and stuff that went there? I don't know. Maybe there were two separate things. Okay, maybe he presented it as kind of this, you know, like I said, a pimp to the high society. But when there were select, you know, foreign leaders and politicians and diplomats and so on, he made sure to coach the girls to go with him in specific rooms where they had, you know, double mirrors and stuff, and they were recording everything, whatever, you know. But primarily it was a blackmail operation, a sexual blackmail operation, and jointly run by the CIA and Mossad. And because, like I explained at length before, as to why I believe that the US wants Israel, like they really need Israel as an ally in the Middle East, and it's not the other way around. It's not like Israel controlling the Senate, and, you know, Israel's not Darth Sidious controlling the Senate. There's elements of it. You would like to, but sorry, you can't. You're not powerful enough, you know, even though you want to. Tough shit. It's not going to happen. The US is more powerful, all right? The Catholic Jesuit CIA faction is the true head of the pyramid here, let's be honest. So they're the ones that are calling the shots, and they decide. They want to have Israel as an ally in the Middle East, because it very much suits the goals, the foreign policy goals of the US, all right? So of course they would have had some kind of joint sexual blackmail operation, some honeypot operation going on to keep certain foreign leaders in check that they deemed to be, common enemies. All right, so this is normal. I mean, it's par for the course. I mean, it would be surprising if such an operation and such an alliance between the two intelligence agencies did not exist. Okay, so of course he was involved in something like that, and that's what was going on. Because you're like, oh, he's got Mossad connections, clear Mossad connections, Jewish guy, brilliant Jewish guy that comes up with all this money and has all these connections suddenly from his early 20s, like just rises up so quickly as a socialite and billionaire philanthropist, blah blah blah, that hangs out with all these famous people and scientists and constantly surrounded by all these hot babes, and just magically someone's funding him, giving him billions. He ends up with mansions and this and that at a very young age, so you're like, okay, he has clear Mossad connections because of Ghislaine Maxwell and her father, who was also involved. Not who was also involved, he was involved in it, and she also got involved. And they brought Jeffrey into the mix as well. But then you have the US saying, okay, he works for intelligence, to Alexander Acosta, as the article said before. They said he's with intelligence, leave him alone. That's the US government saying it. So clearly he's not just Mossad. So obviously it's a CIA/Mossad joint operation, all right? Now, like I speculated a couple of times on the video, could he have been trying to do a double agent thing and screw the CIA or screw the US government somehow out of something? I mean, the fact that he has that painting of Bill Clinton would suggest that, hey pal, I own you. Now, would his CIA handlers approve of that? Or was that like his own separate thing that he did? Was that like purely a Mossad thing, like trying to come in and get compromising material on the then president, Clinton, that is, and use that to make him do your bidding, basically, use his power to pass laws and so on that would help a particular Middle Eastern country. I mean, this happens all the time. Okay. It's basically the behind the scenes with the intelligence agencies of the world. It's pretty much every country trying to outdo and outsmart and outmuscle and outgun the other one. Okay. Who's got the biggest dick? Who's got the best technology? The kind of James Bond type of gadgets I'm thinking now, or like the cool stuff they show in a Mission Impossible and stuff. Some of it is real, some of it is, of course, Hollywoodized. But who's got the best tech? Who's got the brightest, best trained agents? Who has the best techniques? Interrogation techniques, and so on. Reconnaissance, whatever they do. I'm just brainstorming now. I mean, I'm a writer. I'm an author myself, so that's how I'm coming up with all this all this stuff on the fly now. But it's basically a battle of who's going to do the best, the dirtiest trick, the best technique, the best method of intelligence gathering, of subterfuge. I mean, there's no morals. It's completely amoral with the intelligence agencies. all right? Because it's like they're above the law. It's like James Bond, License to Kill. Okay, you're not supposed to have a license to kill, but he does. Okay, because it's just how it is. So, because it's the ultimate job that they have. They have to protect. It's like protecting the interest of their country. Okay, so basically anything goes. So this is like, how many countries are there in the world? About 200, something like that. I don't know the exact number, but it's give or take somewhere there. And they're all trying to outdo each other. Okay, and the intelligence agencies is the peak of that competition. Like that's like at its most difficult, and most ruthless at that point. In that field, let's say, in that industry, government, department, whatever, however you want to call it. All right. So, I mean, if he did that on the part of Mossad and Israel, I'm not happy about it because I quite like America, but I'm not going to fault him for it. I mean, it's the name of the game, all right? So I think something like that was going on, but he was very much also working for the CIA, and perhaps on paper it was more of a CIA-led thing, and the Mossad perhaps wanted to get him in there and say, okay, try to do your double agent thing as well, and try to get as much compromising material as you can on presidents and stuff like that. And he did so with Clinton, it appears, because the CIA. Why would the CIA want to do that to Clinton? Unless we could have the theory, like there's the theory also, and you could go down the path of, well, the cat's chewing the cables. You can go down the path of, I'm going to pause to handle the cat. Got to use some of my intelligence tactics to neutralize the cat. We could theorize perhaps that the CIA, traditionally being right-wing, did not like certain things that Clinton stood for and wanted to implement, and maybe that's the only explanation as to how this CIA, if this was a CIA and a joint CIA and Mossad operation, whatever Epstein was doing, whatever we could call it, because he was involved in like financial fuckery as well, like like the great Whitley Webb says as well, right? Whitney Webb. So yeah, I don't know what we could call it. It was a financial criminal to begin with. The sex blackmail thing was like the tip of the iceberg. It was like only later did that come out. So anyway, whatever we could call the operations that it was involved in, it seems to be that if the CIA ultimately was his boss, like the highest authority that he answered to, the only explanation as to why he would, and this is assuming that the whole painting of Bill Clinton in the blue dress suggests that he had Clinton by the balls. So if we go by that, if we assume that that's true with the painting of what it suggests, the only explanation would be that the CIA was against certain policies and things that Clinton wanted to implement, and they instructed Epstein to get some blackmail material on him so that they can control Clinton and can rein him in so that he doesn't overly socialize / communize the country. But that's if we go down the path of the CIA is traditionally right wing, which does make sense. I mean, since the 50s, ever since its inception, it's very well known for fighting, combating communism all around the world. So Clinton, when was Clinton? The 90s? Mid-90s, early 90s? It was right after Father Bush, wasn't it? So 91, 92. Clinton would have been what? 91 to, wait a minute. Reagan, 80, 84, 84, 88. Yeah, mid-90s. Clinton was 93, 94 or something, right? And then they impeached him, blah, 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 with the Lewinsky thing. So it does seem, and many people are saying that Lewinsky was also a plant, some kind, maybe from Russia or something. I mean, it's quite clear that certain factions didn't like him, and they knew that he was very, he was an easy target with his sex obsession. And yeah, they tried to control him in that way. So Lewinsky was one way. Epstein, I mean, I haven't done research on this, but I wouldn't be surprised if there are actually direct connections between Lewinsky and Epstein. I don't know if anybody knows. They can let me know in the comments below. But Lewinsky is just, one thing that came out in the open. Okay, that was like, we all saw it, and it was clear that was an intelligence operation from some rival faction or foreign nation. I mean, like I said, they say it was Russia, maybe, some theories, or whatever, like if it was within the US government, if it was the actual CIA, because they, were traditionally right-wing. What I was getting at before was like, when I was trying to figure out the Clinton era, which is about 30 years ago now, his presidency, that would make sense, because at the time the CIA would not have been wokeified to the extent that it is now, so they would have very much been still quite right-wing at the time. I mean, it was only a couple of years after Perestroika and the Berlin Wall had fallen and all that stuff, so I don't see any reason for the CIA to not still be staunchly right-wing during the Clinton presidency in the mid-90s, early to mid-90s. So that's the only way it could make sense as to why, let me rephrase that. The only way that the whole Clinton painting in a blue dress, used as blackmail and shown, by Epstein as, like showing it off to all his guests that I got this guy by the balls, look at this. The only way that that's not a Mossad controlled thing, a Mossad run blackmail of the president, of Clinton, is, the alternative explanation is what I said. Like, it could have been, may well have been either from the CIA, done by the CIA, because at the behest of the CIA, because they didn't like Clinton, because the CIA was right wing back then. Maybe not so much now, but back then certainly they were. They were seeing a communist around every corner. Constantly trying to not fall into socialist / communist pathways, okay, timelines, going down a communist path. So that could make sense that way, but there's a part of me, my gut feeling says that, oh man, maybe he was a double agent and he did it for the Mossad. Who knows? Many things could have been going on. I mean, maybe he was taken out because they figured out that he was a double agent and he had dual loyalties, let's say. Okay, who knows? I mean, the US and Israel are strong, powerful allies, strong allies, close allies. But, like I said, in the game of espionage, winner takes all, There can be only one, like Connor McLeod in in the Highlander film. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was a double agent, for the Mossad. Okay. But whether he was or wasn't, it's not, I mean, that's sort of like a secondary point. The main thing being discussed here is that he definitely was working for intelligence for a joint CIA-Mossad honeypot operation. Okay? Sexual blackmail. It's clear as day. You know, and then they were afraid when he was arrested, when he was in jail. Certain people were afraid that they're going to be named, that he was going to release the names, you know, sing like a canary, as they say, and they took him out. Simple as that. Okay? And now, by the way, the things that are coming out, like everyone is like, oh, the list has been revealed and blah, blah, blah. It's limited hangout. For those who don't know, limited hangout is an intelligence term. I don't know if it's a CIA term, but it's an intelligence agency term, which means it describes when a scenario when a government is actually releasing information to the public, apparently. I mean, they do it with UFOs, they do it with everything. So yeah, limited hangout, releasing certain heretofore secret information to the public and presenting it as, oh, this is the ultimate expose about whatever, you know, the JFK assassination or UFOs or Epstein files, Epstein list, all this stuff. But the reason it's called limited hangout is like because it's you only give them a limited piece of the thing, like, you know, only a limited thing of the thing is allowed to hang out. Okay, it's very funny, these terms. I love all this military and intelligence agency lingo and all their acronyms and stuff. It's just hilarious. Yeah, so they make the plebs, the NPC blue pill people, the muggles, believe that, oh, this is the entirety of the thing. Like when they're doing it with the aliens, with the UFOs now, in recent years, it's like, oh my God, they're showing us footage from the Navy that they see in their cameras and the radar. I'm like, motherfucker, this has been happening for decades. What, you know, some of these muggles that have never considered the UFO phenomenon before now, before the recent revelations, they're like, oh my God, look at that. They've got footage of UFOs. like it's news to the red pill people, okay? So that's a limited hangout. Like, they give you a little bit of the secret information, of the classified info, but the muggles think that, oh my God, they revealed everything. So the reason that's done is for, like, to quieten people down. And then most of the population thinks, oh, okay, they've told us everything now. They've told us all the truth. So that's what this list appears to be. I mean, it's basically a nothing burger. Everyone got excited. Oh my God, all these names. And all these, YouTube blew up about a week ago. I was seeing all these videos left, right, and center. People trying to make sense of the Epstein files or list revealed. And I was like, yeah. I in the back of my mind, I had the idea to make a video, to make it about, the stuff I'm talking about now, in this one, which pretty much I haven't spoken about the list at all until these last couple of minutes. Who gives a shit about the list? No one is really going to go down for this one. No one, there's going to be, if people are expecting justice from this, I mean, who? Dershowitz and all these people, like, it's so clear, like, you hear all these testimonies of people that were there, like people like him, like, having sex, like, with underage girls and all these things, and then it's like, they come out and they give us these scripted statements that say, I was not that, like, everybody knows it's fake and that they're lying, but what are you going to do? They're not going to go down. They will not face justice, all right? So it is a limited hangout, but 99% of this video was about the fact that it was an intelligence agency operation in a joint CIA-Mossad operation at that. And also I wanted to expound on my theory that perhaps he was a double agent. But yeah, I mean, this is just speculation, all right? I don't want people to think I'm anti something or other. I'm just pro calling a spade and just looking at the situation and analyzing it according to the data at hand, okay? May God rest his soul. You know, the incredible thing is that there's that clip of Megyn Kelly. I saw it on Valuetainment, I think, a few days ago, last week or whatever. And she was like, you might be surprised at the revelations that are going to come soon out of the Epstein list, and you might actually hear it from the man himself. This is Megyn Kelly. It's not a conspiracist show. She's serious. Or she presents herself as a serious professional, right? I'm like, what is she suggesting, that he's alive and they faked his death? That's what you get from it when you see the clip.
It's all fascinating, and we're not done with Jeffrey Epstein. I can tell you that for a fact. Can't tell you how I know, but I can tell you for a fact we're going to hear a lot more about Jeffrey Epstein in the coming year, and you may be even hearing from him directly. More on that as I'm allowed to tell you.
So it's crazy times, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, Pluto, this is not that kind of channel. My other one is, the new Aeon 2012. But let's face it, Pluto in Aquarius. In 3 or 4 days, we're gonna have Pluto in Aquarius, which Pluto is the underworld, uncovering of secrets and of conspiracies and stuff. And the fact that it's going into Aquarius for the next 20 years, because Aquarius symbolizes people power, we the people, that type of thing, US Constitution, the spirit of, anyway. It would mean, like the underbelly, like the underground, like the hidden secrets of the elite, or case in point, Epstein's client list, coming to the surface and thus empowering the people. Okay, so astrologically it makes sense as well that maybe it's not necessarily a limited hangout, as I said before, as I speculated before. I'm 99% certain that it is, but it could be a little bit more genuine than we think. Anyway, like I said, this is not that kind of channel. I don't want to go down the astrological rabbit hole now with it. I'm going to be doing these things on my other channel. This video is long enough as it is. It's like almost 90 minutes now. But yeah, that's about it.
Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this video and got something out of it, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you all soon.